This is the Journey Tell podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Donati. I believe life is about the journey, not the destination. To find the journey in every step of the road, the highs and lows, the twists and turns, the ups and downs. It's in those moments that makes life so beautiful. Our guest today has a journey of her own. Tiffany Bynoe is a contemporary gospel singer with a background in 90s urban music and a love for modern pop and R&B. A multi-Billboard artist who has scored hit singles in adult contemporary smooth jazz, R&B, and gospel music. Tiffany, thank you so much for being here and being on this show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You know what, I need to add on there that you're also an author too. So, I mean, that's a big title to have.
Yes.
I think probably so often people probably automatically always associate you with singer. Tell me what it's like to have that other title there, the author title.
You know, it's very new and I'm loving it. I'm loving every step of it because it's given me the opportunity to really share, and it's interesting because at first, when I started about my journey, it starts off with me being a child. So I'm, a young girl. So I'm thinking that it's really going to be geared towards that, generation or, age group. But then the more I began, God began to really just, open that book up inside me, it became so much more, and then that I realized that's when we got this thing called Dreams in a Jar, because you find out that it's so much more than just music. Now, music is the root, but it's so much more, that surfaces the music,
Absolutely. It is so much more. It's so much more to life, to the purpose of life.
Yes.
I want to dive into your book. Let's talk about The Ugly Duckling No More. Tell me about that project.
Well, Ugly Duckling No More came from, remember the book Ugly Duckling? There were some stories in that book that kind of spoke to me as a little girl, because of some of the things that I went through. I went through some, things to where things were spoken that began to cultivate how I viewed myself, and so what I really wanted people to understand is the importance of what we say to not only just, our children, but the children around us, or people, the children that are evolving around us, how important it is for us to stay, to say the right things to them and to make sure that is the root of what's being spoken to them. So that when those negative things are spoken, they don't penetrate. One of my goals with my daughter was to make sure that she was confident. And no matter what it was that she thought on the outside, that she knew on the inside, she was beautiful, and everything that she had on the inside, one day it would evolve and be what it needed to be on the outside. So the book came from pretty much my life. When I was a little girl, I remember going into a family event, and this would be like normal for me. And I've always been like a thin girl, so it's okay, then I didn't think it was okay, because it was people that really were close to me that would always wait till I got in that room and, oh my gosh, you're so skinny. Or why do you have all this acne on your face? Or why is this and why is that, And so those begin to be things. And I was the only girl in my family, with my family. So I began to look at things and look in the mirror at myself a certain way, And so that book, once God began to take me through the journey, it was interesting because I started off in music. Back in 1993, I had a hit under Tanae Williams that was on the Billboard charts, traveling with SWV, Jade, H-Town, a lot of big, they called it the New Jack Swing.
Yeah.
And so I
Absolutely.
traveled with them. And then, and I was so young and so quiet,
Yeah.
But as I traveled with them, I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my daughter I didn't realize at the time that my daughter, it was difficult, to have children for a girl. It was like, that was like the ultimate sin was to have a child at young and, in the industry, so I ended up, getting through that. But my manager at the time, he told me that if I decided to have my daughter, that he was going to separate with me, that there was no longer anything we could go forward in.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, with that being said, I didn't abort my daughter. I kept my daughter, and I ended up having to go home and go through some things. I, went from making like all this money to now making nothing, and come to find out when I was Tanae Williams, my manager, he goes, okay, well, we need to change your name because my name's Tiffany. And he says, well, we need to change your name because there's another Tiffany that's coming out. And, there's some things that, we don't want to get, confused or whatever the case is, which I didn't understand how, but nevertheless, I was young and just went along with it. Well, even as I evolved and grew up, and even after losing my deal and everything and putting music out under Janae Williams, I was wondering, I'm like, well, why is my royalty money not coming to me? Well, he owned the rights to that name. So it was a lot of things that, okay, so, going through that journey led me to where I ended up being home. I came back to my hometown. Like I said, I had zero income, so which meant mommy had to get a job,
Yeah.
So I went to this store, and I remember going to this store, working at this store the manager had put my song on because she just wanted to play it, for that moment. She's like, I want to hear your song. So I brought it in for her to listen to it. And there was this guy walking around shopping, and he's shopping and he's bobbing around, and he goes, who's this? And the lady says, well, the manager at the time looks at me and she goes, that's her. And he was like, no, not give him the love he can feel today. And I said, yeah, that's me. And so, but if that was a moment that was a moment of humility for me, it was a moment that I had to really look at things in front of me and look at what was important. And what was important wasn't mommy's image. What was important wasn't any of that. It was my daughter's life, Yes. So because when I had got to that point, my daughter was born, and she was born with dextrocardia.
Now tell me about, go ahead.
Yeah, dextrocardia is where the heart is reversed. And the interesting thing is that she had 2 holes as well. So they didn't know how to go about repairing her heart because it was reversed. And she was the 3rd child in the country to ever have it at the time. So it was fairly new to, to all the cardiologists and heart doctors, heart specialists. It was really new to everybody. So she was 4 months old when she had a band placed in her heart because she had the red blood and the blue bloods were mixing. We even had Make-A-Wish Foundation because she was failing to thrive. That's the kind of life, that's where she actually was living at that moment. It wasn't really a good, So my husband and I at that time, we locked into our faith.
Yes.
We locked into the things of God, and we made sure that she was always surrounded around God is a miracle working God.
Yes.
That God could do exceedingly and abundantly above all we can think or ask, and in her way, so it was important for me at that time to sing worship music. It was important for me at that time to sing songs that really ministered to both of us, and so I realized even throughout the journey, I know we're talking about the book, but it just stems so much from my journey that, even through that, I realized that God used her heart to deal with mine, and so it was no longer the image. It was no longer Tiffany. It was no longer, now it's someone else, and I realized, here's one of the things I realized even in writing the book. I realized that we as women, we've gotten to a place to where we say, I'm going to have me time. It's about me. I need to take that time. And it's very important as women to take that time, but you have to be cognizant of what you're putting in you, at that time, because we're not only, we're created to put it in us, to put the life of God in us, and then to bring it out of us,
to pour it out.
If you're only staying there in that me place, you're going to malfunction, because that's not how you were created. You were created to get it and give it.
Yes. Oh my God, that was key. We are created to get it and then to give it. Yes. And it's that part, the service part that I think a lot of times people miss. I missed for a long time. I just recently got that it's about the service. It's not about the finances.
That's right.
It's not about what can you pay me. It's about how can I use whatever I have to be of service to someone else.
That's right.
Able to do that. I think that is when the blessings begin to come.
That's right.
And I just got that life lesson. I didn't know that life lesson. So I'm one of the ones to echo that.
Yes. I mean, it's just so amazing. And so what happened was the doctors ended up having to, it was almost like put a mirror in front of her heart in order to do the surgery, because they couldn't see her heart properly.
Wow.
And so when she was 7 years old, she had open heart surgery. And when she was, and it's so interesting because now looking back, that moment is so vague.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, but when she was 9 years old, no, I'm sorry. When she was 11 years old, she had her last open heart surgery, which was like, she said something in this moment that just marked that day, and this is a tearjerker. And it let me know that everything that my husband and I did as far as putting her around, if you didn't understand how God moved, meaning
you
that
understood it then.
could do it,
yes.
then I no disrespect. And I love you, but this space right here, this has to be protected, And so we were very protective of who was around and who knew, it really, who knew, because we really needed just faith, people to just be in agreement that God was able to do it, and then not only that, just keeping her around the word, So when she had her last surgery, they gave her the oral anesthesia before, they completely knock you out so you can have a little more time together. And so she and I are talking, and the doctors, we realizing that she's getting a little groggy. So, it's time to go. So I told Gabby, I said, her name's Gabrielle, and I call her Gabby. I said, Gabby, mommy's going to be right here. As soon as you open your eyes, I'll be right here, And so Gabby says, okay, mom. And I went to push the doors open. We had already kissed on each other, and I went to push the door open. And my daughter says, I'm not scared, Mom. And I said, oh, Gabby, I'm so happy. I'm so happy, and I'm a crybaby. So, and I didn't want that to be the last thing that she saw, so I'm still trying to push that door open. And, so finally my daughter goes, well, don't you want to know why? And I had to turn around and give her my undivided attention. And I said, yeah, Gabby, tell me why. And she said, because I know God is with me. When my daughter said that to me, that just let me know that everything that I thought was important, like the contract, the music, although God was already speaking to me, because he was already telling me that he would redeem the time, And so I was already there. Music wasn't even, it for me. It was her life. Yes, it was her life being whole, nothing missing, nothing broken in her life, And so she's 25 years old today. They told her she couldn't do gymnastics. She wouldn't be able to cheerlead. She did everything they told her she couldn't do. And she is, she's gone to school for real estate. She's gone to college. She's done everything. Never been on any medication. They said that with dextrocardia, what the amazing thing is, with dextrocardia comes Down syndrome, a whole list of other diseases that come with that situation. They didn't understand, why did she just have a reversed heart? Why was it just a reversed heart and not these other ailments that come along with that? And I go back to the fact that God used her heart to deal with my husband and my heart.
I love that. So beautiful that she's doing so well right now.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say to those who listen to doctors who say things like that, who say it's going to be this way or that way?
Yeah.
How did you keep your mindset another way? Obviously you must have, because I know the power of spirituality, and I know how manifestation works. So I know that if you believed what they were saying when they were saying otherwise, the outcome wouldn't be the way it is right now. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We made sure that, our energy in the room was just kept, positive. Everything was kept on a level, even if I had to step out and deal with myself. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not bionic to where we do have feelings, we have emotions, but I realized I learned how to keep those emotions under control, so that they didn't, because even my emotion is not going to dictate the outcome. So why should I give it all that energy?
Yes.
And that's one of the things that, I'm so thankful that I was able to get a lot of understanding and a lot of wisdom, and to be the type of woman that just sit and listen. You know what I mean? Because, sometimes we're just, We don't want to sit and listen to someone that may be a little older than us that can tell us, okay, this is happening, but slow down, trust God, you know. And I have people in my life. It was interesting at that time, my best friends were like 56 years old, 60 years old. And here I am like 27 and, you know, and those were my best friends because they were the ones that could speak into my life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Someone my age at the time, what I was dealing with couldn't, you know,
they couldn't relate.
They couldn't relate, you know, and so God had there was at least 2 women, well, let me say 3 women that God put right there. And that when I had those moments, brought me right out of them. So, you know, I would say surround yourself around people that can elevate you, you know, that elevate the whole thought of whatever it is you're dealing with.
Oh, I love that point. It's so true. Let's talk about that. The power of the circle. What's the power of the circle like for you? What does your circle look like? And one question. And the second part of that question is, how important is the circle, in your opinion, in relation to success?
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's very important, you know, and it's important because we all know in part. And so if we all know in part, excuse me, that means when we come together and we're like-minded, we're going to get the whole puzzle, you know? And so I've learned that even through my journey, you know, and that's one of the things that I even share with the younger generations that, you know, see, they were able to go to school and be taught a lot of musical sense because our generation wasn't. And so when we had children, we made sure they did, you know, we had to take the pans and learn how to do drums, you know, whatever, some of us, or we had to learn home remedies of how to do things. But our children, we made sure that they went to musical schools and they did this and, you know what I mean? And they did that. So they come well-rounded when it comes to the technical stuff, you know, but when it comes to moral morality, and when it comes to things that will help you, that are nuggets that'll help you, you know, propel you to where you're going, you know, from where you are to where you want to go, it's important to have an ear to hear to those two. You know, you got to listen to the older generation and eat the meat and throw out the fat.
Oh, that was a good point. Do you think, do you believe that God strategically puts the right people in your place, in your circle, or in your lineup, in your vision of who you need in order to make it through, whether it be professionally or personally?
Absolutely. You know, I was just sharing this with someone the other day. Now, seasons, we know that there's summer, spring, I'm saying them backwards, but I just, for the sake of saying them, summer, spring, winter, fall. We know that there are 4 seasons. And we know that once that one season is over, well, that other season is going to come back around. Yeah. Right. And so one of the things that God wants you to see is when that season, when those things were flowing in your life, because there's going to be seasons when things aren't flowing, and you got to learn to be content in those seasons too. But there is it's like when it comes back to let's say to the fall, and that was your flourishing season, you know, well, when it comes back to that fall, that same window is still open, if not even greater, you know, so don't give up on yourself. Always keep yourself challenged, always keep yourself charged, and keep yourself ready. You know, a lot of us, we look at maybe getting older, you know, in what we do, and we say, oh no, I say, oh yeah, you know, because as long as I have breath, I have to do what I was purposed here to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your new project coming out. I'm into numbers and numerology, and so the name of your new project is 1111. And for those who don't know, I know 1111 has many beautiful things numerically about it, symbolically about it. I'll let you dive into the meaning behind that and why you chose to name your project 1111. Because meaning, the title says a lot about everything. You know, that sets the tone.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. Oh, I love that you get that.
Oh yeah. Come on. You're on this. We're on this. We have this conversation because we're like-minded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's purposeful. The equivalent to happiness. But for others, I think maybe possibly being open to hearing the call of change could be a world of a difference.
That's it. And that's it. And I think that all of us get to a place in our life to where we look in the mirror at ourselves and say, okay, this has to change, you know? And that's where the me book comes from. That's why I say it doesn't just stop. It's not just about children or, it's even me, because I realized, well, it is me, but I realized that when I, even as an adult, I had to sort through some things that was spoken to me as a child, and it's like, okay, my dad is a tall, thin person, and I'm just product of him. And that I had to learn to be okay with that because of things that was spoken to me, and so now I realize as a woman, of course, that, a lot of people that will speak those type of things is because they're really battling with their own issues going up and down. And, but instead of, they don't realize that the same way is if you come into a room and you're like, oh my gosh, you gained so much weight, that wouldn't feel good.
Exactly.
It's the same thing as if you come into someone else's space and do the opposite. It's, it's like we as women or people have to stop and think sometimes and realize that that is an issue as well as being overweight.
Yes. What you say to people, it's so funny.
Exactly.
I don't even know why this just came to my mind as you said that, but it just did. At the start of COVID, my father passed away, and but thank you, but it's okay. But I say that to say that I was talking to a friend at that time. She had called me to console, and she said, you know what, you should really consider going to therapy because this is not normal. All of the things that all the death that you've been through is not normal. And I remember when I hung up processing that, thinking, well, for one, I am in therapy, but it wasn't that. I thought to myself, well, what really is normal?
Right.
And so it's like when you talk about when you have to be careful of the words that you say to people, and she's a good friend of mine. She didn't mean any harm by that.
Yeah.
But what's considered quote unquote normal, and what's normal to you may not be normal to me. Exactly. And how you dive through what is considered normal, it's almost like what's normal for you at that time, because everyone has to you almost go through the same things at different times of life. You may be going through the divorce now, but someone else is going through it 20 years later. You may be going through the death now, but someone else is going through it, 5 years later. You may be going through, so it's like, be careful when you point that finger and start that judgment and saying, oh, she's been through all of this, or he's been through all of that. And you put this pretty, party on people, because at some point it too will be you. It's just the time hasn't come yet. I think people should be mindful of that as they talk to people.
That's right. That is so true. Yeah, absolutely.
So, let's talk a bit about your project, Make Me Say It Again. Tell me about that song, and what is different about that one in comparison to other projects that you've done.
Okay, well, this is a single that we put out, and one of the things that I love to do is bring out, like, because I remember being 8 years old, singing the Isley Brothers songs or Natalie Cole songs, and I remember being 7 years old saying, hey, if you happen to see my sweet baby, he was walking on down the road. So I'm singing that at 7 years old. I don't know what I'm singing about, I don't have a clue, but I love the music, and I loved, the vocals and things like that. And so I wanted to just bring that back to this generation. Back then we listened to music and we could listen to Luther Vandross and listen to the whole CD and be at peace with what we're hearing, And so just wanted to just really bring back some good music. It's actually a remake of the Isley Brothers, the Isley Brothers song, Make Me Say It Again.
I love that. I wanted to talk about that, about R&B and gospel. And I know that you mix the two a bit. How did you decide to do that? Were you nervous? About that? And what was the decision-making factor for you to say, okay, I'm going to be a gospel artist, or I'm going to go down the R&B route? I'm going to, I know it's very different. And, I just would like to kind of know what made you decide to go down that path, and if you're happy with the choice that you made.
Yes, absolutely. You know why? Because I believe that you can reach more there, and I know that God, the thing is that when the river is pure and the motive is pure, the intent is still the same. You know what I'm saying? Meaning God still has his way. I remember I was doing a show in New York City, and my pastors that came out to the show, and there was a young man, an older man in the audience that sat next to them. And he said, the type of songs that I sing and the way that I sing, it's always something, you're going to get something out of it, and that's because that's my heart, you're going to get something out of it. And so this man, I remember, I think the song was, Hold On to Love. And the guy said to my pastor's wife, he said he had been married for 30 years and they had just separated. And he was saying how the music, and it wasn't just the music, it was the energy in the music, but he was saying how the music, just the show moved him to go and try to make things right with his wife. And it's like, because you think about it, somebody with 30 years of history, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but, I also say this, I never tried to do anything. I just continue to be me, And so when God was taking me through the journey with my daughter, I was doing songs that was ministering to me through that journey. You know what I mean? And so I never categorized myself one way. And then, now God has me doing another thing over here. So it's, I never, how do I want to say it? Tried to be one or the other. I just did.
You just flow.
I just flowed and moved how I needed to move. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Really?
Yeah.
So you're flowing through the spirit of however he is designing you to move, and you're flowing through that space.
And it's awesome, because that's what it's all about. I mean, even the conversations that I'm having, like even what I'm having with you, and connecting with other like-minded people, and being able to, and your audience is like-minded, because they listen to you. So that is important to me, because it's almost like we understand iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
And then when you get together, it's like, it's like things happen, our energies charge off of each other. So there are things that you're going to say that's going to just magnify or illuminate something in me, as well as I'll say something. Yes. So that's why it's so important. And it's like, and it's so important for us women to see us talk with each other and be so comfortable with each other. You know what I mean? And not, because you know who you are. You know who you are. And you know that no one on this earth could do the job and do what you were called here on this earth to do. Nobody. So with knowing that, I'm not in competition with anybody. You know what I mean? But I do know that I need everybody, because when our arms link, we're so much greater.
So much greater. We're not designed to be sitting in life by ourselves. It's not designed that way. It's designed.
How can you give?
Yes.
You can't give anything. You can't give, it's interesting, because I had to go through it. I realized I being married for 28 years, I'm like, I have some me time, I have my children. Now my oldest has his children, so it's like, okay, it's time to do me. And as I realized that, I was miserable in that. I was miserable in doing me, and I was miserable because that wasn't what I was created to do. I was created to go and get that, that love from God, and that unconditional replenishment.
Yeah.
But I was created to now then go give it to someone else.
Yeah. So what do you do for yourself though? So how do you go inward, and what does your me time for you look like?
Okay, there are multiple things, to be honest. One is I stay focused. I don't want to sound deep, but I do have my time with the Holy Spirit. And I have to do that, because that's where I am, and it 15 minutes is not like I spent a whole day trying to be a certain way, you know what I mean? Or to communicate or anything like that. And sometimes it's just sitting and listening, and that voice will speak to us, and tell us, okay, do this today, or go this way, or you end up somewhere, your body directs you somewhere, you go like, hey.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, it's yielding yourself to something greater than yourself, but you got to know who's greater than yourself, and I mean, we can give credit first, and the universe renders things that bring healing to our body and things like that. But we have to give the ultimate credit to the ultimate creator, which is God, and that's who I thank God for being the creator of the universe that can render things that I need to excel on this journey called life.
Hmm. I love that. How do you
Yeah.
shift when you're with your friendships and your circle? Have you remained with the same circle throughout all this time, or have you shifted through? And if so, how do you shift through your circles as you climb your way through success?
I have learned that a lot of times when there is a shift, we tend to not want to let go. And, you tend to want to reach back, to the ones that were for that journey, for that season of your life. And I realize that there are those I call them the stick it to itiveness. There are those, but then there are those that are only there for a moment and for a season. And you have to recognize that, because to me, and to be honest with you, being the way that I am, I find it to be the loneliest place in the world. You find yourself being lonely because you're your thoughts, because of
Yes.
how you
Yes.
do. And
Yes.
so, you find yourself finding more time with yourself
Yes.
than friends, and so, I think I have evolved to another place, and that the place that I have evolved to, the journey has taken me to now a new generation or a new group of friends, that are, you know, because, we go from glory to glory, from level to level. And so I believe that, not to discredit anyone, but that there's another level that we're at, that you have to now connect with that level now. So, and there's some that God will say that you need to pull up,
Yes.
that's why you have to be mindful of, I think that's why I reach back so much, because I'm like, okay, guys, is this the one you want me to go back and get?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, no, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
You hear I know the voice tells you, and you're like, oh wait, I
Yes,
gotta wait, let me give this to her. Let me give this to him. Yeah. And then
yes,
sometimes you make a mistake.
yes. Okay.
Yeah,
And I
sometimes you make
mean,
mistakes with it. So in those moments though, how do you shift from your circles when you're shifting from
mhm,
circle to circle and you're shifting
mhm,
how do you do it in a way that's graceful, where you don't hurt the feelings, or where you're taking in consideration what that may feel like for the other person on the other end
right.
as you're moving through this closure? Because it's almost
Yeah.
like it's not a relationship like a boyfriend, but in some
Yeah. But I know
situations it
what you mean.
is.
Yeah.
A breakup is a breakup.
Yeah.
And it can be, it's in the beginning, it can feel that way.
Right. Now, I could tell you this. I am very wise about who I call friends and
Mm-hmm.
who, was in my circle. I don't know what it is about me, but I'm the type of person that'll come in the room and sit and watch, and then I'll know, more so than the person that comes in and owns the room.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
have to get a feel for what the room is saying, and I that's just the type of person I am.
Yeah.
So I've chosen friends that were like-minded in those moments. You know what I mean? So the friends that I have now, they are that I have were friends with, in that other throughout that other time. They are still friends, but we all have the understanding that we're moving on to different things. And in moving on to different things, that circle is where you need to, be. And so you're not really insecure about that. You know what I'm saying? You're not insecure about the movement, because to be honest with you, that, like, remember I told you my friends were always older, like, so I never really have the same age girlfriend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although desired that, but
Okay.
in getting married and raising children and going through what I
Yeah.
went through, it was just so hard to, to do that. So it was, most of my friends were always older. So it was always them being able to, you know, and now it's interesting because now it's me on that page. And they're, in some sense now have to be reminded, because, sometimes throughout trying to help somebody else, you cover up your own stuff, you
Yes.
know? And so when you have that time to yourself now, because you're not always up under that other person, now you see,
Mhm.
you see that there's some things you got to deal with too,
Yeah.
and so one of my best friends, she read my book and she's like, oh my gosh, Tiffany, she says, Now this is one that no matter where I would go, if I had to go to the hospital in the middle of the night with my daughter, whatever I had to do, she was more like a nanny to my children.
Yeah.
Like she made sure, I mean, God blessed me with her name was Sister Betty Robinson, but God blessed me with such an amazing woman. And now that I look back, it was just a jewel. It was just a jewel. It was something that was placed in my hands that was so precious.
Yes.
And when you look back at the significance of what a friend is. Yes. I would say she was that. She is that, because we're still connected,
Yeah.
But I would say you have to choose friends wisely that understand your journey and your mission, because, and if they understand it, then that means even when you do transition, they'll still be there. Even when you do go, elevate to another place, they'll still be right there. Because, I have a girlfriend that, you have that one girlfriend that you may not speak to all the time.
Yeah.
And you see great things going on social media, and you praise her for those things, and you congratulate her for those things. And then you pick the phone up 3 years later, and it's like you never stop talking to each other.
I love those friendships. Yeah.
So
yes.
I think it's like getting a feel for who the person is and knowing where you as the individual need to place that person. You know what I mean? So because she's one I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, if I never talk to her, I know she's watching my page to make sure all is well. She's just not that type of person to just stay in your space.
Yeah.
But she's always watching. If anything happens, she's the first one to say something, and, but that, I just think that because I had older people in my life, I just chose very wisely, of certain people that were in my life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of the space and energies, do you meditate? What's your daily routine like for you, your morning routine?
My morning routine is I get up and I do my 15 minutes or however long I feel, whatever I feel up to it. And I'm just speaking to the Holy Spirit, and then, or just listening. And then after that, my husband and I will get up and do a little bit of exercises or maybe a walk or something like that. And there are times that you'll find I don't try to put myself in a certain schedule with a certain thing, because my life is just, it's all over the place right now. But I do make sure that the jewels that I need to survive in life are first, So my time in my word, getting my spirit fed, and that's one of the things that I wanted to say. When we as women, we say, okay, I'm going to do my me time. I'm going to do me. I'm going to do me. And I'm not saying that we have to go to church and do this and I'm not that person. You know what I mean? As far as running to the church every time it opens and you don't have a life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that was that person, and then, but I'm not. And so I even wrote a song. We wrote a song called Save People Like to Have Fun Too,
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that we think that we're supposed to just live like a certain way and not really enjoy life. God said, to subdue and replenish. And he said, live life more abundantly, and that means that this is ours. It wasn't the darkness that created, is that's supposed to create our fun. It's the love, it's the light, it's the, all that, and so, when you take away, the judgmental, all that other stuff, you know what I mean? And I tell you, it took me to be honest with you, it took me to go to a place in Scotland. There was a place I went to in Scotland, and there was someone that spoke into our lives. And they are, the black book, the elite black book that's in the world, that if you open this black book, you can get like Bill Clinton's number. Not everybody has this. These are only elite people that have this book. And his name is in that book, just to show you what type of person that, that I was dealing with. And so now, mind you, I had been in church, for 20 years, did everything everybody wanted me to do,
Okay. Yeah.
But I never did it the way I wanted to, never did it the way I was hearing for myself to do it. I was being like, kind of like,
You're
so anyway,
following but not following your own path of how to do it.
Exactly. And so we went away to Scotland, and this man and his wife spoke into our lives, had us stay at his house for 7 days, spoke into our lives. And I kid you not, it was like it was such an agape that was transferred, you know, the unconditional love that was transferred that I had never known before. I thought I knew it, but I'd never known before. And I realized that, you know, we as faith people can walk around so judgmental sometimes, and so this and so that and so this, like one sin is greater than the next. No, that's not our job. Our job is to love, you know, and let God do whatever he got to do. You know what I mean? Right. And so if you can't do that, you know, and so that when he took us there and really just cleansed us with that, with agape, you know, to where I came home and I saw things differently. You know, I saw people differently. I saw, you know, it was almost like, you know, you now know that what you have is not just for you. Yes. You know, and it was just,
it confirmed that for you.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Have you gone back there since then?
We haven't. We've been asked to go back. That's the interesting thing. And now his son has come to visit us several times. Wow. And so, they come and visit us. I mean, it was such a connection. It was a first time visit. Yeah. But it was such a connection to where, like, years later, like if he sees my mom, if his son sees my mom, he's like, "Hi, Mom," or "Hi, Nana." You know, and
it was spiritual. It was a whole spiritual connection. It was intentional, divine for you. Yeah, that was. Yeah.
You know how people talk about their journey when they go somewhere and you know, and I believe that was it for us, because it changed my whole way of thinking. It changed, you know, it allowed grace to be grace. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean, and not controlled grace. Yes. Because it's not my job to do that. You know, so it became all that, and so. You know, and when you talk about being able to do the love songs, that's why I have the liberty to be, you know, to transfer even over into that, because I realize that the very thing that I do for, you know, when I'm singing gospel music is the same thing, and the same thing that I release because of who I am when I do love songs.
And it all derives around love.
Love. That is it. I'm telling you, somebody asked me, what's my superpower? And see, the superpower I'm about to share with you that I have, I'm not the only one that have it. It's love. It's so powerful. You know what I mean? It is so powerful that when it's genuine, it's liquid. And you don't have any, you have no other take, but you know, you can't help but to get it on you, because it just, you know, you can't help it when you're around real, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know it. You know it. You know it when it's a friendship, if it's a relationship, whatever it may be, you know, you can feel it.
You can feel it. You know.
Yeah. When I'm in tune.
Go ahead. Yeah. And because I've always been like very spiritually sensitive anyway, you know, and very discernful, that's another reason why I was able to just, you know, it wasn't easy for me to just walk in and just be like, okay, we're friends. Yeah. You know. It's a journey.
Me too. You know. Yeah. My guard is always up, and I'm still like a little bit. Yeah. You got it. Yeah. I know.
Giver. I'm the giver. I am too. You know. So I'm like, you want to go where? You know. And next thing you know, you sit there like, okay, well, who's gonna take me? No.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's interesting. This conversation is just amazing. I'm really enjoying it.
Thank you.
I want to wrap up with the segment that I call Tell and Tell, which is a play on the word show and tell. What is something that you can tell the audience about yourself that we don't know about you? It could be, I don't know, maybe what you do to warm up your voice, maybe how often you read the word, maybe it's some sort of other daily routine that you maybe do on a daily basis, maybe something that you do with your family, just throwing some things out there, whatever you may want to share, whatever you like to take us into your world with.
Yeah. Well, one thing I love to do that I love to do outside of singing is roller skate.
Really?
Yes, I love to roller skate. And I mean, I was the type that roller skated every day. And then for a while, I kind of got off of it. And then I got a pair for my birthday. So I love to roller skate, you know. I kind of, I'm just so engulfed in, you know, what God is doing and the doors that are open right now, and just so amazed at the doors that are opening right now. And, you know, I have as far as with my book, I have some very, very interesting people that are partnering up with me and taking me by the hand and helping me along with everything. And one of them is Tommy Davidson. And I'm so excited. You know, it's like, if I could say anything, I would say to never give up on yourself and to know that the season is going to come around that you desire. It's going to come around. And when it does come around, the 5 P's will keep you prepared for it, which are proper planning prevents poor performance. And if there's anything that's left in me as far as, you know, what we're talking about right now would be that there are so many of us that put things aside for whatever the reason is that we put them aside. You know, that's been like the heartbeat of us, you know, and we put them aside for whatever the reason is, you know that God is good and he is able to redeem the time, and he will redeem the time. And like I said, at the end of the day, you just have to remain, those 5 things have to remain consistent, you know, because I could think about times that I didn't feel like singing, you know, but I knew that they were moments that I was keeping myself charged and keeping my vocals cleared and you know, moving, so that when these doors did open, I'm even more powerful than I was when I stopped, you know what I mean? Then,
Yes.
So, you know, if I did answer anything that you said, like, but that was just the thought that was on my mind to just share with, you know, people, to just not give. That's exactly what I feel, even speaking with you, you know, and your audience, is to just not give up on yourself at no matter what stage it is in your life, to not give up on what God has promised you, what God has shown you. I remember being a little girl, and I could see myself singing in these venues, you know, with these. I could see it. I would be
Saw the vision.
Yes, I would be in 7th grade, and I could literally. I remember my English teacher saying, "Okay, Tiffany, are you going to be with us today?" Because I would be literally somewhere else, you know. Mm-hmm. And I could see myself singing in these things, and so so that's what he does for us. He gives us glimpse, you know, of things that we know we're going to be doing. And you have to trust that when that time comes back around, because it will, especially if you're a believer. If you believe and you calling those things that aren't as though they were, it's coming back.
Oh, it's coming back. It has to complete. It has to complete itself. Okay. Yeah. So it's definitely coming back.
Yes.
How do you keep going? What would you say to someone who's out there, who's, you know, they're in a funk? It may be coming out of COVID. It just may be just a bad time at this moment right now. What do you advise for someone to just, how do you keep going? What's the mindset have to be to spiritually keep going in the midst when things aren't good? I often have people ask me, like, did something new happen? You seem so happy. And I'm like, oh, I'm still going. Nothing's new. But it's because it's, you know what? It's the inner side. It's the inner things going on. So can you kind of touch on that and give some advice to someone who may be out there who may need some direction in that place?
Yes, absolutely. I can be honest with you. You know, my book, and not because it's mine, but it really charges you to really look inside yourself and to understand that the beauty, and this is where we miss it at even growing up, because we're so busy always looking in the mirror for the beauty. And that's not where the beauty is. Yeah. The beauty is in your heart. You know, the beauty is the person that you are, you know? And so there are times, you know, we say we have superpowers, and we say, and I do know that, you know, getting into a place with God can create a miraculous, you know, atmosphere, that there's some things that can change. But I could tell you one thing: if I ever get into a funk and I feel like there's just there's no way of trying to get past it so that I can move, I'm gonna tell you what I do. I worship him. And even in just saying, you know, love songs, and, you know, just letting them know. And what you do is you get yourself off, you get your mind off yourself, and you get it put back on the love of your life. And when it's put on the love of your life, he takes care of all that other stuff. And then it doesn't look like it's moving like it's supposed to move or whatever, but you have to trust. These are the key elements to life: are believing and then and knowing. Believing and knowing, you know, because at the first part, in the beginning of my daughter's stuff, I was believing, you know what I'm saying? But I know now.
Yes.
I know.
And once you know, You're like,
that
you don't care what, nothing can touch you.
Okay.
Because you've been through it and you're like,
Yes.
I know I can make it through this because I've been through
right.
that. I'm here with you. So I
Yes.
get it.
Yeah.
I understand it. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of this podcast. This was beautiful. I could talk to you for hours and hours.
Oh, so can I.
Yeah, your energy is amazing. I really enjoyed this. If someone is interested in following you on your journey, how can they go about doing that?
Well, you can follow me on all social media platforms, which would be Tiffany Bynoe, and Facebook is Tiffany Bynoe Me. You got Twitter, Instagram, what are the other ones? LinkedIn, all those. You know, you can find me at Tiffany Bynoe. And then I also have I also give my email because, you know, I realize even going through COVID, these seasons and the things that we've just come out of, is that, you know, there are times that, you know, someone will call and they'll say, hey, well, it's my mom's birthday and she just went through this and she loves your voice. Could you sing happy birthday to her? You know, and I am so honored to do things like that, you know, because if that is one moment that I can give that can, you know, just send love and peace to someone, you know, I've done what I've come out to do, you know. And so that's tiffanyIammusic@gmail.com. You can also request me for shows. We have my CD 1111 is so on fire, and I just can't wait to really just show everybody because I haven't really taken the stage like I'm about to take the stage. You know, I've taken it, you know, very, very politely.
No, but now you're getting ready to go full force.
Yes,
you're ready.
Yes.
Well, we're ready for you. I'm ready to see it.
Thank you.
So step up, queen. We're ready for you.
Thank you.
Your light. It's beautiful.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. I will be supporting 1111 and all of these projects.
I
really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Journey Told Show. I'm going to leave you with words that my father so often says to me, and that's to be the best version of you that you can be. Until next time, folks, let that sizzle in your spirit.